We are here because we have a panel of creative entrepreneurs. And what does that mean, right? So we wanted to have a conversation about what it means to follow your dreams, monetize your passion, and have your own business. Because often, like I was telling the panelists earlier, we have a lot of narrative around having a 9 to 5, having a full-time staff job, which is great. I have a 9 to 5 full-time staff job, but that's not the only way to be successful. There are people who have taken the leap, who have followed their dreams and passions, and who are loving what they do and putting their talents out into the world. So we really wanted to have a conversation about what that means, how you get started, how do we overcome the obvious challenges, so you leave this conversation feeling inspired and knowing that this is a viable path for you if it's something that you want to do. Okay, I'm going to shut up now, and then I'm going to turn it over to our panelists so they can just a brief intro about who you are, your name, obviously, who you are, what your business and or industry is, and what your business does, and then we'll jump into the conversation.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Hector De Marquez. I am a fashion designer. So one of my businesses is called CIR, C-I-R, CIR, and it's a clothing company. But I actually have two businesses. My second company is called MRQZ Creative, and I am an arts education consultant and work with a lot of school districts, counties, to develop arts education programs for youth. So, I'm a busy man.
Hi, everybody. My name is Alma Lopez Tillman, and I am a marketing and events consultant specializing in diversity and inclusion within the entertainment industry. I am currently consulting with the Cal State University Entertainment Alliance, putting on amazing, events like the one that we're here today, amongst a bunch of other stuff, but that's the short version.
I can go next. Ciao, everyone. My name is Tiffany, aka the Italian Soul, and I bring people together through the art of pasta making. So I host virtual and in-person pasta classes where I show people how to make pasta from scratch, so the old school way, and we come together and make a delicious meal together.
My name is Rudy Torres. I'm a photographer, and I go under the moniker of Visualize LA. It's where I post all my photos and video work. I have a website, all that. I'm also a musician and singer-songwriter for the band Mexico City Heartbreak.
Hey, everybody. My name is Daylette, and I am the founder of Day 2, which is a wellness academy that offers private training. So for celebrities and actors and actresses getting ready for a movie role or red carpet, I am training them, getting them ready. I also offer group classes as a master teacher of 11 years, and I host international wellness retreats to get everyone aligned and spiritually ready to be their best selves.
See, I love this. We have fashion, we have education, we have food, we have fitness, wellness, photography, music, consultancy. It's going down today, y'all. Okay. I'm so excited, if you can't tell, and I only have 1 cup of coffee. Okay. So, so my first question, I know I have water here. My very first question that I always ask on every panel is because I feel like it's the question that everybody wants to know is like, how did you get here? Like, how did your path lead you here as an entrepreneur? So very briefly take you through our path. Like maybe you started right out of school, or you didn't go to school, or you were working a 9 to 5 and said, I don't want to do this anymore. Like what led you to now?
So when I graduated, I wanted to work in hip hop. So I went to college in New York City, originally from LA. And my first job after college was advertising sales assistant at the Source magazine back in New York. So I got my foot in sales and marketing in the late 90s. And from then I went on to other magazines, record labels, working in marketing and sales. Eventually I landed in the events area, but it was sponsorship sales for events. And I realized that, my job was to, get partners to convince them to give us money so that we could hold these events. And I was making, some of these events were millions of dollars, but I was making a very little percentage off of that. So I thought, well, if I'm able to make this money for somebody else, why should I be able to make it for myself? And, I went through a series of other jobs, but it was always in the advertising and sales department. where eventually, I became really close friends with some of my clients, and they said, you should be able to do this by yourself. And my first client that I got was Moet Hennessy, and they referred me to other folks. And so I started doing events with Moet. Then I did like my first series of events at Sundance Film Festival. And I started with like 1 or 2 clients. And that's there's a lot there, but that my journey really started from being
Dang.
I think we got the gist of her story, but I guess I can go next just to keep it going. I think I have a similar story, and kind of what she ended with is she started with a couple of customers and worked from there. But my journey started when I was in college. So I was working in a fine dining Italian restaurant to make money to pay for all of my college activities. And I was working in a fine dining Italian restaurant. And this is the first time I ever saw fresh pasta being made in my entire life. So I'm like 20 by this time. And I just was so shocked. And I remember that memory just stuck with me because I thought pasta just always came from a box. I didn't know anything about this world of just the art form around pasta. So that memory just has always stuck with me throughout my life. 10 years later, when we're in, I believe around 10 years later, we're in the pandemic, and I was living in New York City. And I'm in my 400 square foot apartment, like tiny apartment. And I'm just going crazy because we're in the quarantine. And I was just like, there's no time like the present. So I took out a bag of flour. It was the wrong flour. It was bread flour. I took out some eggs, and I think I had some olive oil and water, and I just started making a mess. And I was like, I'm going to make pasta. You just got to start. And they end up looking like little cookies, like little rectangle cookies. And I still went forward with it. I'm like, I'm going to boil these. I'm going to make a dish. And it was terrible. But I felt alive, and I felt like I was having so much fun. So I was like, I'm terrible now, but I want to get really good at this. So I just started making pasta every day, and I started documenting that on Instagram. Other folks, more so Black, brown people, were like, what are you making? I didn't even know that pasta is only 3-4 ingredients. And they just started being really interested in it and following my journey. And then I started having people reach out and say, can you teach me how to make pasta? So that's really kind of where my idea for the business started. Shari's family was actually one of my first pasta classes. I think my first large group, and they did such a great job, and they still talk about it to this day. But now that was back during the pandemic, and now I've taught close to 300 people how to make pasta, mainly virtually. And I work with Fortune 500 companies, startups, and now I'm getting into partnering with apartment complexes and their resident events.
I'll go next. Hi, Tiffany. I know Tiffany from college, and so I just want to say that too. Just to kind of do kind of an intro of kind of what all in kind of similar to 2020 being the segue into what makes you feel good. A lot of introspection there during that time in the pandemic. And, it was actually a part of my life that I was running away from until each day in 2020, everyone kept saying the day. And it was almost like that was calling me to come forth into my truest self. And I've been kind of told, I am originally from Detroit, Michigan. I've been dancing all my life. So I am a dance major in secondary ed, and multifaceted creatives sometimes get pushed into deciding if you should do one thing or the other. And I was like, well, there's so much complexity in different modalities. What would it look like to create something where all of them were together? So my name is Daylette. Everyone calls me Day for short. And so 2020 kind of called me into okay, I want to start my business. I want to call it Day 2. A day will not start without the sun and the moon. So we have this 24 hours to really understand how to connect your mind, body, and spirit. So in my 11 years here in Los Angeles, I've been a dancer, an athlete, and a yogi, which spells the word day. And I really wanted to create classes and experiences that incorporated a little bit of everything that I do. So that is what led me to start Day 2 and to also kind of make that a part of my brand of dancing. Everybody is a dancer, everyone is an athlete, and we all need spirituality as a yogi. And so since then, I started doing group classes, master classes all around the world. And then also doing retreats in Cabo, Mexico. So that was where I felt really like more people need this. Working with actors and getting them ready for movie roles, it was really important that they had a like multi-hyphenate trainer to support them, because a lot of what the roles are not just physical. You need to be like mentally strong, and just as much as you need to be physically strong. So I really felt like that was my superpower, was everything that I could do, not just bottled into like one thing. So that has taken me really far, to Madrid, to Paris, to Mexico, New York, and the Hamptons. And I'm just amazed at what kind of opportunities have presented itself, especially for a female small Black business owner. I'm really, really excited about what's next to come.
So my journey was started in college. I actually went to school with the thought and the plan to be a doctor. Bill Gates actually paid for my education. And halfway through pre-medicine, I decided, this is not for me. It's not who I am. And I pivoted and ended up going into education as an elementary school teacher. And so I taught elementary school for several years and then ventured into creating programs in theater and visual arts and music for schools. Eventually, that work gave me notoriety and attention to where I started consulting in education. And in that process, I was still teaching, and I came to this really important point in my life where I realized I was born to be a fashion designer, and I've always envisioned it. I used to watch Mariah Carey videos and Selena videos and imagine making their clothing. And so, that was many, many years ago. And so deep into my education career, I decided to take a leap, and I quit my job. I enrolled in fashion school, and thankfully I was able to survive through fashion school because I was able to consult in the field of education. And so a few years later, I started my own fashion company and continue to grow my consulting business in education as well. So a lot of turns, a lot of, pivots, but here I am today as living what I dreamed of when I was 7 years old.
So I started doing art full time during the pandemic. Again, I do photography and music. I was let go from my nonprofit job working in education, and I decided to do like kind of a total 180 and go from my education work to art, basically. And I learned everything I know about music and photography on YouTube. And once I felt competent enough in both photography and music, I just kind of went for it. And the world opened up again, and it was like perfect timing. So I just started taking pictures of my friends and family, and that kind of progressed to fashion photography, collaborating with influencers online, clothing brands. And along the way, I was approached to work on commercials, music videos, and that's kind of where my worlds kind of collided a little bit. Because with music, I started my career around the same time. I was reaching out to people that I knew from other walks of my life, and I just kind of started the process of recording my own original music and reaching out to folks. And I sent out a bunch of emails to kind of start the process of playing shows. And, fast forward a few years, culminated to we got accepted to play the South by Southwest Music Festival in Austin, Texas. We've since gone on tour in San Francisco, Los Angeles, different parts of Texas, Las Vegas, Chicago, Arizona, Joshua Tree. And we've gotten to do some really great traveling with music. And it's been a journey, lots of ups and downs.
I love what you said, Rudy, about like the reaching out piece, because I'm like a networking ambassador. I'm always going to preach the networking gospel because it is such a part of not just entertainment, but if you're going to start your own business, like networking is a huge part of that. And I want to touch on that because I think a lot of people have this idea about what networking means and what it is. It's not just this one thing, right? So I want each of you to just share briefly about how networking has helped your business, what networking has looked like for you. Like, how does networking amplify your business and why is it so important?
I'll go, Shari. And sorry, I had to do a Zoom update. So apologize for the technical difficulties. So I can't stand the word networking, first of all. I like cringe when I hear that word. I like to call it like connecting. Because whenever somebody sends you like an invite for, there's a networking event, I always just think that everyone there is going to be unemployed, myself included sometimes, and trying to figure out people don't really get to know you. They just want to know what you do. So I don't like the word. I really like more to see networking as making a genuine connection with somebody. I think at the end of the day, people want to work with people that they like. And like in my instance, my first client was somebody that, I befriended them as a client, but then, we were friends and they obviously liked me, so they wanted to work with me. So I think of networking as like a relationship, even like dating. When you're first starting to date, I haven't dated in years, but when you first start to date, you go through like a process of getting to know people. So I always say like, you should learn about like the other person. Don't immediately start with like, what do you do? Like, try to really build a genuine connection, because people will like smell the BS. And, you're not going to have a connection with everybody, and that's okay. But it's about nurturing like the relationships. It takes time. In my instance, my experience has been that from the time I meet somebody to the time I actually close business based on that relationship, it's an average of 3 to 5 years. So you really have to like hone and build those relationships. And so you can't just think of it as like a quick transaction. I'm going to go to this event, I'm going to meet 10 people, then I'm going to like get a job. Really try to make a genuine connection as if, this person could be, your next best friend. So that's my take on networking.
I have a take that's kind of a segue into what you're saying. And what I think is really important, just personally, what I've experienced in Los Angeles is a lot of times you go to events and that is the number one question: what do you do? And I think it's important to really understand like who you are when you go to an event. So before you even decide to go, like, does the event resonate with you? Do you have you researched the event? Like, does it, like, every time you get invited to something, you also have to know yourself. Is it at a time of day where you are exhausted and kind of not feeling, really get grounded in who you are? And that's a lot of the work that I do as a spiritual trainer. Like some events I go, I have a crystal in my pocket, and you have to be really energetically grounded when you come into these spaces, because there will be people that are just looking for something. So to make a genuine connection, I think it's important to show up as yourself. Say affirmations to yourself before you go in. Say like, I am great, I'm here. And something that really helped me just kind of like into the fashion was knowing who I am. I am a sports girl, and really knowing like I show up as my career. So even though it might be like something dressy, I try to make it sporty dressy. I let the fashion be a part of my experience in the event spaces. So people can see like, okay, this, like you have a sporty look here. So that was something that really helped me along the way at events. Like sometimes I would try to dress the way like I think, and I was like, you know what? No, I want to wear sweatpants and some gym shoes. And then that kind of like will draw the right people to you when you show up. like as yourself.
Yeah, I agree with you, Daylight. I think the theme here is genuine connection and also how you make people feel. Most of the bookings I get are through word of mouth or through reviews. And so I like to go into each of my classes, like understanding the goals of my customer. So do you want to have a pasta class because you want to bring your team together and get your coworkers to learn more about each other? Or, if it's a resident like event, do you want to make your residents feel like you have more of a community? So like me trying to take that step to understand the why of why we're having this event really helps me to provide them with an exciting and tailored experience, because you can get a cooking class anywhere, but I want to give them something that's really long lasting. And from there, they're going to feel compelled to tell maybe their friends or their other coworkers or another apartment building how much fun they have. So once again, I think the theme genuine is just so critical in informing a business.
And I just want to mention really quick that networking is not just an event either. Like there's the events like encompass networking or making connections, but you can do that on social media. I mean, social media obviously has taken over like in today's day. So you can make connections through social media. You can make connections by like when you're out eating or you like, Hector, you can speak to this, like he meets people everywhere he goes, and you should, it's a perfect segue to my next question, just about like embodying your brand. That's why I love what you said, like Day, is like really showing up authentically and like always embodying your brand, and to that point, you had mentioned something, Tiffany, that said there are many cooking classes everywhere, right? I'm sure there are lots of fashion designers. Hector's not the only fashion designer. Daylette's not the only, wellness spiritual instructor. Rudy's not the only photographer. You're not the only culinary artist. You're not the only consultant, right? So I think a lot of people, it's really easy to be like, oh, what's going to make me any different? Like there's so many of what I'm trying to do. So I want to talk about that because I know that's on everyone's mind. It's just like there are a million people who do what I'm doing. How do you make yourself stand out? Like, what do you tell yourself to keep pushing and keep moving every day when there's a bunch of other people doing what you're doing? Like, how do you overcome that imposter syndrome and really push forward?
Yeah, I can start with this one just because we're talking about fashion already. And I think in any creative space, it's already very competitive. It's already very dense. So the question about how do you stand out is really looking into a mirror, and the answer is right there. It's your story and your narrative. I always think about that movie, The Devil Wears Prada, and the scene where they bring up, florals for spring, like again. And a professor once told me, well, yes, but it's never been done by you. And so that's such a powerful message, because that's why I was saying in LA, everybody's a designer, everybody's making a movie, everybody's writing a script. But how are you doing it? And that's really the difference. It's your story, your narrative. Don't ever lose sight of that, of where you came from, how you got here, because it's ultimately that story that will be woven into what makes you different.
Anybody else have anything to add to that?
It's hard to follow after Hector. He summed it all up perfectly.
Great.
What he said.
I just wanted to add something quickly. That's okay. No, I definitely want to like echo that and just say like lean into your story. A lot of the times the best way to get work is just connecting with the people that you work with, having great rapport, and just being like good energy, good vibes. I know Shari and I talked about that last time. Like vibes go a long way. Like a lot of this industry, any art industry, operates on vibes almost all the time, where it's like if you're building out a team, unless you work really well together, like you might not continue on that team for very long, and it's all vibes. People will hire their best friends just on a recommendation because they know each other and they get along. And it doesn't even matter at that point. Like if you're like the best of the best, like you're easy to work with, you're a joy to work with, you're hired. You have to be good at what you do. And that's like the bottom, like minimum requirement. It's like you have to do good work, but beyond that, it's just vibes.
Yes.
One thing you mentioned about imposter syndrome, I'm sure, I don't know if we're going to get into it more, but I noticed that for me is the things that I think I'm the most insecure about, or things that I may have considered a weakness, are actually the things that are most attractive about my business. So there are tons of pasta makers out there. There's even Pasta Talk. Everyone's making pasta, but me being self-taught, that was something I was a little bit insecure about. Like, how am I going to teach this, company or this consulting group how to make pasta? Like, I'm scared that they're going to poke holes in everything I say, or I feel like I need to be an expert in pasta and pasta history. But actually, like, when I start to break down my classes and ask people, like, have you ever made pasta? What makes you nervous about class? Like, they have the same concerns as I did when I started, and letting them hear my story of, like, I taught myself in a kitchen. I think it really kind of gets us on the same level and really makes them at ease with the classes.
No, I really love that. I'm an entrepreneur, won't get into it right now, but when I was building pipelines and I was looking for investors, a mentor told me they want to buy into the story of the person even more so than the brand. Because I think more often when we go out into the world, we're like, this is my brand, this is what I do, this is what I offer. But really they want to know, like, I just want to reemphasize, they're really buying into the person, like your story, your brand, like your why, most importantly, why are you doing this? And so really, if you are an aspiring entrepreneur, you should not be starting a business without knowing why you're doing it. And there's so many people who are like, I just want to make lots of money and have freedom. And that's great. But if you're doing that and you don't have a why, like that, it doesn't work that way. Okay. So I'm glad that you brought up the story, because the story is so important. That's what people are going to buy into. That's why people are going to work with you, because to Rudy's point, you have a great attitude. Like we all heard in kindergarten, attitude is everything. Yay, we've been here our whole lives. But man, am I right? As adults, that is true. The people you surround yourself with, the people you want to be around and look at every day, who you want to give your money to, like you want people with good vibes, good attitude, and people they like. They want to work with people they like. So I think that's just so important. So to that point, I know we all like risks. I love talking about risks. I've taken so many risks in my life. I don't regret any of it. I think I am where I am today because of the risks that I've taken, but there's still people who are just afraid, which is natural, right? Like fear is a natural part of the process when wanting to start your own business. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. And I just want to kind of talk about the risk that you personally taken for your business and why that is such an incremental part of where you are today, because risk and rejection are unfortunately a huge part of entrepreneurship. And if you are afraid of risk and rejection, it might not be the path, if I can put it very plainly. So I just want to talk about the different types of risks that you may have taken and how that got you to where you are today by taking that very scary or making that very scary decision.
I think anything you're scared about is usually you're on the right path. And that just being a spirituality and understanding our bodies are really intuitive and they know how to lead us in directions that are aligned with our highest self. So some of the things that you sense when it's fear usually is kind of pushing you into the more sense of self that you need to have. So sometimes if it's a little bit scary, it is actually supposed to like follow through with it because your body is trying to tell you something. I think what really helped me is being really courageous to go to the top. And I think there's a lot of people on the front lines that like to tell you no, but they're not the ones who are actually making the decisions. So give yourself just free agency to say, who's the supervisor? When you go somewhere, like ask for who is the one in charge, because a lot of times when people are saying no, like N-O, they actually don't K-N-O-W, know who you are. So that knowing, when you have a knowing of who you are, then you lead with that, but lead from the top. See yourself already there, like visualize yourself there. And if it's something you really want, then don't be afraid to go to the top. Don't be afraid to say, I want to know who is the creator of this film. I want to know who who can I speak to about this? And make sure you get to the right person. Look up the industries that you want to be in. Look who's at the top. Find their email. Find their story. That's another reason. Even if you get an opportunity to meet the person that you want to, do you already know what their story is? Have you researched and done a lot of the work to make these connections happen? So that would be another gem for you. Go to the top. Ask for the top.
And just to piggyback off of what Dave just said, I think, yeah, definitely know their story, because one thing about networking, connecting is that people love to talk about themselves. So if you run into somebody, see somebody, and you already know something about them, they're probably going to be really impressed with that, So that's, great advice, Day. Just wanted to jump in and say that.
And two, I know we're talking a lot about not the struggle, but whenever I do these types of panels, I think it's important that you fully understand the full, well-rounded vision of what entrepreneurship is, not just the good and not just like the less than good. I don't want to say bad, but I want to talk about, and each of you can answer this question, what is your favorite part about owning your own business and being an entrepreneur? And then what is maybe your less than favorite part? What are the rewards and challenges in simple terms?
I'll jump in too. So my favorite part is obviously having the freedom to make my own hours. My least favorite part is not depending on income every 2 weeks, like a lot of people. That's the real.
Yeah, we're keeping it real here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, similar to that, I love that I have full direction of the company. And so I do work a 9 to 5. I work in tech, and I have to follow the vision and mission of my CEO that I work for. But with, having your own business, you control the creative, you control the messaging, and most importantly, you control the vision of the company. So I love that. I love being in control, as you can see. I think the hardest part for me is just also staying relevant and continuing to solve people's problems. So, I found a problem during the pandemic that people were lonely. They needed something to do and they wanted to connect with people. We're zoomed out now. A lot of people are like, I'm tired of Zoom. I want to do it in person. So now I have to pivot and change kind of my service offering to give customers something that's more tangible, that they can touch and that they can feel, and that's still exciting and not going to break the bank for me as well. So that's the challenge, is trying to figure that out for me.
So I'll say like one specific example of how it affects musicians. I wouldn't be able to go on tour with my band if I had a normal job. A lot of the times you have to travel, and when you travel, you miss work. And a lot of jobs aren't cool with that. You can't have a regular job and be a traveling musician and do all that stuff. So that's something that is definitely always on my mind when, like why I freelance and do photography also, is because it enables me to do that traveling part. And then with photography, I'm also able to travel for work sometimes, which again, I wouldn't be able to do if I had a regular job that tethered me to a city. Next week, I get to go to San Diego for a few days and document farm workers along the US-Mexico border. And that's a really great opportunity that I would forego if I had a regular 9 to 5, probably. One downside, though, is that the money's not always consistent, like every month is different, and you have to be very proactive about looking for work and putting yourself out there, networking, all that again. And then just managing your money a lot smarter, because nothing is guaranteed every month, and you have to stretch out money sometimes longer than you would like. And that's just part of the business.
No, that's a really good point, and like a literal perfect segue to my next question, because obviously a lot of entrepreneurship, like we said before, it's not stable. Like every week looks different, every month looks different, every paycheck could look different. Like in between gigs or in between clients, like what are you doing to keep yourself motivated? Because if we can keep it real, like sometimes when you're waiting for the next client or you're waiting for the next job or gig or what have you, it can feel kind of daunting, maybe debilitating as you're waiting for that next client. So what do you do to keep your interest alive, to keep yourself motivated in between jobs or clients or gigs?
I think to keep yourself motivated is to have a structure. So again, I'm just going to go back to day, and your day needs to have preparation and planning, and how you prepare and how you plan can really just change how serious people take you as a creative. I do think we're kind of unfolding into a space where they see more of the work that you do as like, this is a career. And so rather than it being, although it is in conjunction with something you love and you're passionate about, that's a hobby. When it comes to the formality of the business structures that you have, like really plan and prepare how you want to do that. If you're offering services, create like packages, or you can even do reoccurring sessions for people, and just really let people know that although it is something that you're passionate about and a hobby, that it is operating as a business. And I think that's really been a big change for me, is for people to understand, like, this is how serious I take the work that I'm doing. And this is not like a hobby. This is like not going to Baskin Robbins and like getting your ice cream. This is like a major part of your life and your vitality. And so that kind of gives people like a deeper understanding of like, oh, okay, this is serious. Like, this is because creatives are, as in every industry, and it is attached to a lot of discipline. I don't know if anyone has ever taken a dance class or even took ballet. Like, all these art forms of creativity are disciplines that require a lot of structure and a lot of planning and preparation. So just lead with people, having things in place where people can respect your craft.
I love that, because if you don't take your craft seriously, why would anybody else? It seems like such a simple concept, but you'll be surprised how many people are out here not taking themselves seriously, but expect other people to take them seriously. And you don't even take yourself seriously. So I just want, like, when you go home, like, really think about like what you want out of entrepreneurship and know your worth. I know it's easier said than done. I'm not dismissing that. But I love what you said, Dave, because I think it's such a simple concept that a lot of people struggle with, like taking their craft and their business seriously, because no one is going to take you seriously if you don't.
And really know your industry, though. Like, before you get into an industry, know the industry and know the history of the industry. So have you studied it? Do you know the legends? Do you know people that are doing the same thing as you? Do you know how much they're making on average? So like, I ran into a lot of creatives that actually are like underpaid because they're not properly, evaluating the cost of the services, and they haven't really done a research in the industry, which is why I think like social media creatives and like creatives are a really big part of how the world functions. So just do your homework and like really understand your industry too.
Shari, I'll jump in terms of also taking your business seriously. I think it's important that if you are going to jump into being an entrepreneurship and you want people to take you seriously, you need to make sure that you handle the boring business administrative part of the business. For example, that you set up a bank account with your business name, that you lock down your business name, that you have all the, social media handles, that you know when you're going to pay your taxes, like all of these things that go into like the admin side. It is important to know, and there's a lot of great resources out there, like you just looking up the Small Business Administration that can help you. So if anybody needs any help on how to set up, feel free to send me a question.
That took me a little bit of time to figure out, like creating a logo. There's companies out there called like Fiverr. They can help create logos for you. A landing page for people to find information about your business, whether that's like a link tree on Instagram or a website. And just getting in there, I'm more hands-on. Like, I don't like to just read through stuff and get instructions. I just jump in there. So like, I just signed up and got a Squarespace and just tried to figure out like how to build a website. It took me like months, but I didn't have to pay anyone to do it. I figured out how to build it myself. So I think just being an entrepreneur, you have to kind of get comfortable with being uncomfortable and wearing so many different hats, because there's you don't have a marketing team, you don't have a operations team, you don't have IT, it's just you. And you just my favorite quote is you just have to figure it out.
Lots of figuring it out. I mean, that's great. Like Fiverr, 99 Designs, Canva. Listen, Canva, girl.
amazing.
Yes.
Love
Yeah.
Canva. If you don't know Canva.
Love Canva.
No, but it's just we have to do what we have to do with the resources that we have, right? Like we are not going to have these large $1 million budgets to be hiring a team of designers doing all this. You have to be resourceful and creative. And I love if you know for the panelists of any resources that they can take advantage of. If you could drop them in the chat, like Canva, Fiverr, 99 Designs, anything that an aspiring entrepreneur could take advantage of, like tools, resources. I know, Alma, you mentioned the Small Business Administration. If you could drop it in the chat, I always want to make sure that people leave with like tangible resources that they can plug into. So this is just not informative, but something that they can actually apply. So I'm just now or later in the chat. So before I ask my last question, we are going to open it up for Q&A. How we're going to do Q&A is you're going to private message me directly with your question so I can ask it. So that way we get through as many questions as possible. So you can start doing that right now. Again, private message me. If you don't private message me, I won't see it or ask it. So please send it to me directly so I can ask the panelists questions, and then we'll get to Q&A after this last question. So my last question for you before we go into questions is if someone on this call is an aspiring fashion designer and or wants to create curriculums for nonprofits and schools, if they're in the wellness space and want to build their business that way, or they want to be a culinary artist or a consultant or a photographer or a musician or whatever, what are tangible ways that they can be preparing, or what can they be doing right now as a college student or grad, or if they're not in school, how could they be preparing, or what should they be doing now to prepare for that type of career?
They should definitely get work experience. I mean, if it's an internship, if you can get an internship, even if it's just a job where you're facing the public, because a lot of these skills will transfer into, what you're going to need to do as an entrepreneur, especially like having to deal with people. So don't feel that you need to have like that exact same job, like right away. I say, try to get a little bit of experience so that you can, be better once you have your business. I always say it's easier to like make the mistakes and play with other people's money than your own. So try to get that experience.
Yeah, I agree. I think obviously when you love something so much, you want to see it happen now and the way you want it now. And so really find the beauty in knowing all facets of your industry and being okay with, learning. That is a really big part of what your craft going to ask you to do. Are you like a participant in your own journey of learning and being okay with starting at this role and knowing that this role and experience is going to lead you to something else? Like, never underestimate the value of experience in things that you can gain just as much. And sometimes it's hard because if you see something that's non-paid experience, I mean, some of the most non-paid things have led me to like big jobs with Adidas and Box. And I was just really grateful and gracious to be there. And talking about vibes and the people that I met in those experiences just really opened up new doors. So don't shy away from really being like humbly like, okay, I really want this experience, and seeing where that leads.
That's
you.
great, Dayla. I'm on the same page there, because my journey here wasn't a straight line. It like had a lot of like curves. I never thought just working in a call center, helping people with medical billing, working in healthcare, working in startups helped me understand from the technical portion of like how to build a website. So like everything I've done has helped me to get to this place. And the learnings and like the tools that I've gotten from every job experience, internship, even when I worked in a Italian market, making minimum wage, like that experience just helped to get me to where I am today. So like taking little tidbits from each of your experiences in life will help you to really shape your entrepreneurial career.
And I add also, while you're young, take all the risks you can and just start yesterday. Just like go for it, because art is like all about the long game. And the longer that you're in it, learning the work, honing your craft, meeting people, posting about it online, like your chances of succeeding increase exponentially over time. Like if you could start now at 15 and have 10 years of experience by the time you're 25, like you're already so far ahead of most people.
Okay, I'll go quick. If I can give anybody interested in being an entrepreneur a piece of advice, is go sell something. Because at the end of the day, that's what we do. We're selling a service, we're selling a product, we're selling ourselves to somebody for a price. So if you want to practice, take something and go sell
Sell
it.
this pen.
Sell this pen. Sell this scarf.
Yes.
Of that. Okay, so
It's really cute, by the way. I do like that scarf.
Cute.
I almost forgot. I do want to have time for shameless plug. So if you have an Instagram handle or a website so people can check you out and connect with you, please drop it in the chat. So website, Instagram, whatever you want, so people can connect with you, learn more about your business. Please throw it in the chat. And if you're on this call, save the chat. We have some great resources. Make sure you save the chat so you can refer to it later. But I mean, these are great, interesting stories. And I just want to make sure that we have a time for people to connect and learn more about you. Okay, so for the last 10 minutes, we're going to do Q&A. Again, please private message me. We already have a lot of questions rolling in. So for our panelists, if I could just have maybe 2 people answer each question so we can get through them, that would be great. First question. How specifically have you all overcome fear or imposter syndrome to start your business?
I don't think we can emphasize enough like proper training. You know, I left education formally to train myself formally in fashion school. So I would say if you have a vision, if you want to overcome imposter syndrome, get really good at what you want to do.
I would say for me, I don't know if imposter syndrome ever 100% goes away from me. I know Shar, even I told you about this panel. It's like imposter. I feel it creeps up. It's like that little friend that just doesn't go away from me. Even I've talked to tech founders who they still to this day talk about imposter syndrome. So for me, I think it's something that I know can creep up. So I just want to make sure I address it and understand it for what it is, that it's, it's some insecurities in me. But what I like to do when I feel imposter syndrome creep up is I like to save quotes from my previous classes that I have to remind me that like I'm that girl. And so I look at like some of the feedback, because I ask for feedback after every class, and look at this anonymous feedback and what people are saying about me and how I've changed their lives, and the narrative of pasta within like their families, and how like they're going to be making lasagna like in Shari's family, like for the rest of their lives. They're now teaching their kids how to do it. So for me, it's like I have to go back to some tangible quotes.
Nobody knows what they're doing.
Mm.
Nobody
Amen.
knows what they're doing. Nobody has it all figured out before they take the leap. And I think, including myself, no one on this call has it all figured out. No one. Okay. But the difference between them is they just took the leap and did it, and they're figuring it out as they go. But I think we just get into some condition our minds that we have to have it all figured out. We have to have all our ducks in a row. We have to have all this money saved before we take the leap. And that's just not realistic. Okay. And if you think about these big brands, like, I don't know, Nike, McDonald's, Adidas, it started with somebody having imposter syndrome that didn't know what they were doing and just started a shoe company and just started making burgers and just started. They just started. Okay. So I just want to remind you all that no one knows what they're doing. CEOs, they don't know what they're doing. They don't have it all figured out.
Thing to say in that. I just want to add to that is entrepreneur can feel lonely at times. And so I think it's important to have mentors and maybe a couple people that you can trust that will also pour into you and motivate you. I have two business mentors for the work that I do, and I am so grateful because they are there mentoring my mind so that I'm not, the thoughts that you have will come, but get mentors, like talk to someone. And even what you say out loud is really powerful. If you have an idea, you want to run it by someone, find someone you trust and say, hey, this is what I'm building. I would love for you to be my mentor. And you'll be surprised how many people will gladly want to pour into you in that way.
Shameless plug, we actually have a demystifying mentorship panel coming up in a week, so please follow us because we're going to be talking about that. Okay. Next question. When it comes to budget budgeting, what have you guys done in your business that gave you success?
I've reached out to brands, and there's a lot of people that are interested again in what you're doing, and it's one of those things you have to be courageous and ask questions. Like, you don't know what's possible if you don't ask, and don't feel like you need to be at a certain level in order for an ask to be fulfilled. A lot of in-kind donations. Brands have tons of things. I mean, tons of budgets for so many different things. And I used to think I needed to be like this in order to ask. And I just was like, I'm going to be uncomfortable. Like, this is what I'm doing. And you'll be surprised how they're like, we love the work that you're doing. We want to send you some free this. And I have really shocked myself and just being really uncomfortable and asking.
That's a great point. Next question was a kind of a two-parter. A, do you all have business accounts or do you use personal banking? And then B, how do you deal with bad vibes from your clients?
Woo, chat.
I have business and personal accounts. And how do I've been lucky that a lot of my clients started off as friends, and we work out whatever, beefs we have, and I haven't had that many. So I consider myself very, very lucky. I wish I could share more on the conflict part, but yeah, I haven't, because I've been lucky, but definitely keep your business account and your personal finances separate.
Yeah, to that note, just in food, I have separate accounts and insurance. Just even though I'm not serving anything at this point, I just keep it separate because just especially in the food industry, like one person's claim can take down your entire personal finances. So for me, it's smart to have them separated. And then just for my classes, what I try to do is like the person who initially reached out to me is probably the most excited for booking the class. I try to have as like my advocate for the class and co-host with them. So then the team is seeing like a familiar face who's really excited about the class. And then I do have some people who will just maybe sit there on Zoom and just they're not as involved or engaged, but I like to just call them out, call their name, ask them like, do you need help? Maybe they're shutting down because they're just really like scared to ask a question. So I try to just keep my classes engaging so then everyone's involved.
I would like to, obviously, yes, bank accounts for business. I mean, that's, yes, logical. But on the vibes aspect, I always differentiate bad vibes from bad behavior, right? Because a vibe is a vibe. You can overcome that. I always say I get to set the tone of the room. So when I walk in, it's my vibe that will vibrate. And that's what I always emphasize. But bad behavior, that's something that just I don't tolerate. I think we're all adults, right? We know what's right, what's wrong. So when people misbehave, that's usually when I know that there's not like a business partnership that's feasible. But a bad vibe, like I bring all the good vibes, so that doesn't matter.
Okay, a few more questions. It says, do you have any resources or information about small business funding or grants? Have you taken advantage of small business or grants that you could share with us?
I did drop in the chat the SBA. Actually, during the pandemic, I was able to get a small business loan to help my business stay afloat. And I know that they do offer, you just sign up for their mailing list. They do have quite a bit of things. Also, there's different organizations. I know I also belong to the National Association of Latina Small Businesses. That's another source that I can drop in there. And then I did drop in a source for anybody who needs a website. AI, make it your friend. You can build like a free AI website in a day. So that's in there too as a resource.
I haven't received any grants just as yet. It will happen. I actually took the accelerator approach and found a lot of that were cohorts for Black business owners. And that to me felt really vital. Like that was a really big vitality into what I do. So there's so many cohorts, the Fearless Fund, Black Girl Ventures, female founder world, there's a lot of cohorts and accelerator programs that kind of foundationally set you up so that you are prepared. Will go over grant writing and how to have your proposals ready. So I think it's important that, again, if you love your business and you want to learn, to try and look for some cohorts and programs that will make you feel prepared for that process. Also, Chase Bank has a accelerated program for minority-owned businesses. So you can get a mentor through Chase Bank that will coach you. You can meet with them once a week, and that was like game changer.
I'm going to answer one of these questions. We had 2 people ask what the name of Rudy's band was and how you find them on Instagram. It's Mexico City Heartbreak on Instagram. Mexico City Heartbreak on Instagram. And they're amazing. Last question, and then we have to wrap. What are other ways that you can market your business and find new customers outside of talking and making connections?
One thing I just did, I found a partner to help me with getting the word out about my business. So because I provide virtual experiences, there's a company called Elevent, which is a marketplace of virtual experiences. So I was having some trouble just getting the word out. The great thing is just if you just look up virtual experiences, they're one of the first ones that pop up in Google's search engine. And so partnering with them, although they get a small percentage of the revenue, it's been helpful with starting to get the word out, and companies can they do all the work. They have the website, they sync your calendars, and companies can just book me right through the website. So I start looking into partnerships.
Also, you might want to create a mailing list. A lot of us are like on social media, and obviously anything can happen if you lose your followers. But if you start to build a mailing list, like you get to keep those emails. So maybe start off by a simple newsletter, once a week, once a month. I have another great resource called Flowdesk that I think has a free, newsletters. It's sort of like a portal where you can build your own stuff and they'll send it out for free. They have different packages, but there might be a free starter one. So I'll put that in there.
Drop in the chat. Tiffany, drop in the chat. They let you said some stuff. Drop it in the chat. Yes. Okay, well, that's time. We went 3 minutes over, but I just want to thank each and every panelist that lent their expertise and knowledge today, who carved out time to be on this panel today. Thank you so much. And I also want to thank everyone who attended, because that means that you are invested in your future, you're invested in your now and your business, being an aspiring entrepreneur. And thank you for showing up for yourself today. So I hope you give yourself, because we have to show up for ourselves. So like I said before, please follow the California State University Entertainment Alliance, CSUEA, their Instagram page, their website, where this will be posted maybe next week. And we will have our Demystifying Mentorship panel in a few weeks. So please follow that. And Pipelines Pro on Instagram. It will be posted there as well. And again, thank you so much for being huge supporters for us. Thank you to the panelists, and go be great. Have a great weekend. Do something fun. Let's get it. Okay. Thank you, everybody.